Okay, so next talk, very interesting one. I know it's an interesting one because I've been working with Up in Up as well. Jens has been working with Up in Up as well, Kris as well. I think. Who else here in the room? Only one. You know how hard it can be. So I think it's very interesting to see a talk that will explain a little bit how it works and what it is, why it's useful, and why it is so complex. So give it up for Kris, who will be talking about Up in native and React Native as well.
All right. First slide. Who am I? Most of you already have seen me, I guess. Only the new joiners. Welcome, of course. I started as a Java developer long time ago. I don't know how long. And then I had some dark days or years in PHP development. And then, I became an Android developer. Now it became very overwhelming also, I would say. And in 2018, I saw Flutter popping up, and I started the meetup. One of my first talks, I think, on the second meetup, was about how to combine Unity in Flutter. So adding Unity in Flutter, and now I'm giving a talk to add Flutter into a native application. So a bit related maybe. And at this moment, I'm a developer, Flutter developer, of course, at InvestSuite. InvestSuite is creating financial applications. And the side project is ijsradar.app. That's a side project of mine where you can see where the ice trucks are, and you can also get a notification when he's passing by and something like that, or you can call him. Add Flutter to an existing app. Is it rocket science? I think the answer is yes, but also a bit no. No. Because in the end, at least for iOS and for Android, what is happening when you start an iOS and an Android app, the Flutter engine will start and it gives you the screen. So for iOS and Android, it's lots of things can be reused and is actually the same. Why it is rocket science? Yeah, when you think of a rocket, mostly the build pipeline of, for example, a React Native SDK, building your app as a React Native SDK can easily take 50 minutes, and sometimes it fails after 45 minutes, and then you fix it again or try to fix it again, you rerun it, and so that's the rocket thing. Well, I'm going to, where can you add it? Of course, I'm talking now about Android and iOS. I'm also going to talk about React Native. Of course, Flutter, giving your application or your SDK to another developer which also uses Flutter. That's also possible. Or adding it to a web in web, so Flutter in another React Native application or just plain web. Why would you do it? Probably you want some code reuse between iOS and Android or something like that. The most benefits of the Flutter website you can get. But it's also a bit like maybe you don't want to, or you don't have the budget to do everything from scratch, and then you can actually start with maybe one flow, moving into Flutter and starting that one. And of course, Flutter is more fun than doing React Native stuff, so that's also a reason why you would try to switch at least. First, it all starts with creating a module. Normally you do Flutter create to create your application, but there is also a module template, but maybe just try that. You just clear, because I already tried it, of course, before the no problem. I'm using FEM. Okay. What does it look like? It generates, you probably recognize, it's the counter app. What is also the same here, your Flutter YAML file, but there is a small additional step here that is telling you the Android and the iOS package or native part that is going to be used. You also see an .iOS and a .android file that is actually automatically generated. The good thing is that you can Flutter module, you can just run your module, because that's also useful, I think, to see what you're doing and not having to wait until you can test it in React Native or in iOS. No, not this one. Okay, it takes me not too long. Okay, ta-da! This is a Flutter as a module, step 1. Let's go back. So it creates a hidden Android and iOS folder just because then you can test it. Then, when you have your Flutter module, you can check the website from Flutter. They explain how to add it to an Android and an iOS application. First step here is you can create your AAR file, and for iOS it's a framework file. And then it explains you what you need to do to add it to your Android application. Then, when that is there, in your Android application, you normally, if you're running a Flutter application, the engine starts automatically and it opens an activity with the Flutter inside of it. This is something you will have to do manually now. So you can start the Flutter engine here. You can create a fragment or an activity with it, and then you can even start communicating with it. The communication between Flutter and native is always via method channels. If you have, for example, a Google Maps plugin or something like that, and you have a Flutter application, inside is a native widget. They talk with method channels, but it's also possible the other way around. If your app is native and you're embedding a Flutter thing, you can also reuse the same system. So very briefly, you build your AAR file, you add it to your Android project, make sure you start the Flutter engine, you can show the UI and you can communicate. How it works on iOS, a bit the same, different command of course. You have to do some magic stuff to your pod file. At this moment, the support for, they mostly support still is Cocoa pods, but they are still migrating to Swift Package Manager. Here also you can start the engine. What is a Flutter engine? Maybe good to explain. At the moment that you start the engine, your main.dart file is going to run, but maybe you have an application defined in there. That application itself is not yet there because you don't have a view, but your Dart code from the main.dart file is already running. It's the moment that you create a fragment or an activity that you will see what's happening. For iOS, it's a bit the same. For React Native, there is an easy way. You can, in React, you can define, in Java or in Kotlin methods, and then you can say, okay, this method should be available from React, and then you can call that method. And here, what is it doing? It's just showing or starting a Flutter activity, which means maybe somebody pressed a button in React. In React Native, you press the button and you suddenly see a full screen Flutter. That's possible, but it has some downsides. Yeah, it's a full screen. It's an activity. The better approach would be that for maybe your just a snippet from a React Native application, where you can then say here, maybe I want to render it here because the top and the bottom, or I want to render it as a view. All kinds of use cases are possible. But that's not so easy. So I was thinking while creating the talk, let's create a new package, which is called Flutter Embedding. And just only pushed it today, so it's still fresh. And maybe I can no, click on it. No, this is not. All right, 7 hours ago. What does it do? The thing is, it's actually very hard to add Flutter. As a React Native developer, it's hard to do all those Flutter methods like, hey, now I need to do this Cocoa pods, then I have to run this Flutter engine, but I don't want to do Flutter. I'm a React developer, or an iOS native developer. I just want to use, the stuff I'm used to. So that's the thing I wanted to achieve is actually you have the Flutter embedding module, which is something you just add to your module, and then it already adds iOS, Android native code. And when you then build your AAR file or your framework file, the iOS or Android developer doesn't have to be start my Flutter engine and with all that kind of methods. And the good thing also here is it gives you an easier way of communicating. So the way you normally talk to an SDK is you start it up and you invoke some methods. Not that you need to start a method channel and start thinking like, oh, how do I communicate or how does it work? So I have actually two plugins, and I wanted to separate them because what is the CLI doing? If you have a module, and I created some CLI commands, you can see them here. It will generate your iOS or your Android just to make it easier. It's only switching this and this. You don't have to do a lot, but the good thing also here is you can generate an example. So just with this command, it will generate an iOS SDK, but it will also generate an iOS example file. And I will briefly show you how it looks. Wait, yeah, that's Dart or Flutter, doesn't matter. with an example, of course. Sorry. Did I type something wrong? Probably yes. All right. It takes some time, but Android is the fastest one, so should be fine. All right. So now what we have in the build folder, an Android example. Yeah, let's open it with Android Studio. Maybe. And then okay, that was too fast. I think it's still building, but you already see what is the outcome. So the example project, what it actually does is it shows you a UI of stuff that the Android application itself will probably have to do. You have to do the start engine, but in the documentation it's one line of code, and then you can decide like, okay, I want to open it as a separate thing. Here you see our counter app, and I cannot go back. No, sorry. It was going back. Okay, anyway. But you can also open it here inside of a view actually. For example, what you get out of the box is, for example, the theming and the languages. That's something you will also almost always have to communicate from the super app to the app, because the super app decides if it's dark or light. Yeah, here you can see it's communicating in the end via an meta channel, but you don't have to use the meta channel. You can just say set it to dark. The language, I just changed the title of the language because yeah, it's a counter app. Yeah, there is also it's also working in the opposite direction. So you can communicate from Flutter to the super app, and here it says hello, and then here I show a pop-up. Okay, I received that, or maybe the Flutter part is full screen, and you want to exit. Then you can send an exit event to your Android application, and then they say like, okay, the widget dispose it. As long as the engine keeps on running, it stays there. So the state is still there. But if you stop it and start it again, then it's 0. Yeah, it's dark because I switched the theme here. How does it look here in the close it. How does my app look like? Not this one. New. Okay, you have the main method, and the embedding controller is something you get from the Flutter embedding widget plugin. You get it. And then on that embedding controller, you can do now. You can call the exit method. You can listen for what the theme is, but you can also invoke custom communication. I named it handovers. You hand something over to the super app. Sometimes it's just just saying, just exit me, I'm done. My wizard, I'm a flow, everything is okay. Or sometimes your super application, your Android or iOS application, that is doing the authentication probably. If you're logged in, the super app is having the access token. Maybe your Flutter app needs it, and then your Flutter app can say, like, via a handover, give me an access token, and it will return it back. That's also a way to do it. You can invoke give me, and it will return maybe an answer or an error, of course. So that's the thing. And then also, yeah, for React Native, how that works. What it does, let's just run it, or just. Okay, so what happens in the background of the CLI is actually for the example applications and for the React Native plugin I'm generating. I'm actually using Mason. I'm not sure if you heard of it. Mason, you can give it in a location and say okay, here on GitHub is my example project, and replace these text with this text, to fix the URLs and the package names and so on. So that's a bit what's happening now. It's maybe getting over the internet, but it's also much slower, of course, React Native. What it also does is there is a lot of stuff happening with Cocoa Pods. For example, if your Flutter module depends on Google Maps, then it's already depending on native stuff. So then you have to merge that with your Cocoa Pods. So and yeah, that was I think 3 or 4 nights of work to get it right. Okay, I will just. The thing is, on iOS and on React Native, the example looks the same. Okay, let's go. Build React Native. Run. No, npm install, I guess. Yeah, here again, you already see what it looks like. I try to make it the same as the native one, of course, with the same functionalities. Nothing special here. So yeah, that's it. All right. Then you think, oh, I see a counter app. It works. I just have to write Dart code and I'm fine. But no, of course. Imagine, of course, you want to embed it in your Android application. It's a React Native one. You embed Flutter, but inside your Flutter you want to show a Google Maps or a web view. Yeah. That's then it starts getting weird. On iOS it works, but on Android, React Native is using their own layout manager to lay out all the stuff or even the native widgets, and they don't talk to each other with Flutter and yeah, of course. So also part of the embedding plugin, I gave you the React Native component wrapper. So if you embed that, it will, when some resizes are happening or something like that, it will do a meta channel invoke. You don't have to do it manually. And on the native side, on Android, I'm then saying to the layout manager of React Native, hey, you have to resize now. And then it works. So again. Then about communication, I already said method channels is a good thing, but it's not always easy because you're Android or iOS developer, you just want to give an SDK to him. You don't want to say like, oh, now you have to learn Flutter. There is a possibility with Pypen. That's a package from Flutter itself, and they already use it to you generate actually the Android and the iOS messages or class files, and also the Dart class files based on your specification. So the thing is that with Pypen you can actually start doing calls and with messages, and it's automatically generated to iOS, to Swift actually, to Kotlin I guess, and so on. But there was a problem. React Native, we from InvestWith, we had to also support React Native, and then we came into big troubles. But there is a guy named Diskwriter. I'm not sure if somebody already know who he is. He created, he forked the Pypen and added support for TypeScript generation. So at this moment my plugin is not yet using it, but I think there are future plans to have a look at it, and we are already using this one at InvestWith, but it was not easy to just add it to the. And then also I was thinking like, okay, Pypen is fine, but gRPC can actually also work. gRPC is also, so you can define your messages, you can do method calls. Does somebody know who Diskwriter is? Sorry, previously. It's Jens, of course. So for gRPC also, you define your proto specs where with messages and service calls, and in the end, the way you, normally you communicate via HTTP to your server, but you can actually, it's easy to change that protocol and connect it to a method channel. So that's also an opportunity that we can maybe start using. So I was thinking of my roadmap already because I just pushed it. Now the next steps. Of course, Swift Package Manager. A lot of clients are already asking like, hey, I'm an iOS developer, I don't want to use Cocoa Pods anymore. You have to support Swift Package Manager. So okay, it's going to be I don't know. I did not have a look into it. Maybe it's easy, maybe it's not. Or and then also thinking what I'm going to add first, maybe the Pypen stuff or the gRPC to make it even easier to communicate. And now my package supports like now set a theme mode to dark, now set a language, or the at startup use production in or develop environment. That's there, but I want to extend it to that. If at the create command you can say like, this is all the communication I want to do. Just generate it. And then also would like to add web support, of course. And then also I wanted to generate a Flutter example, and that's in the beginning I said you can just run a module as a Flutter application, but then you get it full screen. But then it's not easy to, like the authentication and so on. Your example app is something that you want to have, and then like say, okay, now I want to have dark mode and so on. So that UI, it's probably not that much of work. I also wanted to create for Flutter, because in the end, when you're working on your project, you don't want to run it as a React Native application and then start doing hot reload and stuff. If you can just run it as a Flutter app, then it will be much easier. It's possible. If you run it on a simulator, you can, how to debug your module. And the first one is actually just Flutter run. That works, but you have the downside of that embedding and that communication that you cannot test. What also works is Flutter attach. At least I tested it with a simulator. You can just connect to it and you get the correct scope. Maybe also an important one, mostly I can show you in the here. I did it wrong probably. If I change this to dark, you see at the top the icons are going away. I will do it again. When you go dark at the top, they go away. What's the problem? At that moment, Flutter says to your Android system, "Hey, I'm dark mode. You can have white icons. It's okay." But if you embed your Flutter in an application like this, not having it full screen, you don't want to do that. So keep in mind that you can disable that, but you have to disable it. But maybe if you're the people that will implement your SDK, your Flutter application, you have to ask, will you show it full screen or will you show it as part of the screen? Because then you have to decide, I need to do this or not. Also a thing that we had troubles with is, for example, if you use Sentry, you use the Sentry Flutter package, because that works and you get native crashes out of the box and so on. But if you have a React Native application and they are also using Sentry, then it's not the correct version or something like that, or even with the same version, but no worries, there is also a Sentry package. The Sentry package is the Dart package, only doing Dart. It's not handling native crashes, but it's but for as a module, it's perfectly fine to do that. You can. And then I also wanted to show briefly how web could look. It's not mine. It's not mine thing, but here, this is actually also a React Native application, a React counter and a Flutter counter, where you can. This guy is also a bit showing like what is possible with communication. But I wanted to create a plugin that it's easier, and this guy created. You can watch the source code, but it's very hard to read and to do it every time, I guess. All right. Yeah, some useful links. Those two packages. I'm just uploaded them. I see I'm still missing a link to the source code. That's a newbie issue, I think. Here the source code. The source code is here. Here you can see all the bricks. So the Mason bricks, the template actually I'm using. The idea is also that maybe you want to use your own, and then it should be possible to configure in your pubspec YAML to use another one, and then you can maybe just fork it because you maybe want to add stuff to it for your company, I guess. And then the packages, this is the embedding, the CLI, and this is the example project actually I'm doing. Oh, know it was animating. Made it a long time ago. Are there questions?
I'm super excited about seeing something like this come up. It's definitely hard to get started. Definitely, if you don't have a Flutter background, we should try to make this as easy as possible for for the frameworks on which we are embedding our Flutter app. We're eventually the guests on their platform, so I'm looking forward to see the web implementation, and if I can help with that, I would love to.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. The React Native one is generating a module file, TGZ, I think. And yeah, that's something you can just give to your React Native developer, and and you can start.
Thank you. Very interesting. It seems reasonably easy to bring like a widget from Flutter to like a native app, but how much more difficult is this when you want to bring like a whole Flutter app or a whole SDK that depends indeed like on hundreds of packages to like a native app? Is that even possible, or is that something we should not do yet, or is it something you already did with your company?
I think the podspec in the podspec file or the podspec log file, you can see how much native libraries your module is actually using, and I think for InvestSuite we are 25 like PDF viewer, lots of stuff there, and it's becoming big, of course. The SDK itself, also for Cocoa Pods, it has to package as a debug version, as a profile version, and a release version. So those are actually 3 copies. It's getting very big, but in the end, the IPA file or the APK file, it contains 10 megabytes of the Flutter engine, and then depending on the source code you have, could be 2 megabytes or 10 if it's really large, and then you also have the assets, but that's also in all applications, I think. So, what we also always say to the person that has to implement it, you can already start the engine in the background. The user will not really see it. So the moment that you start, he will open the Flutter widget, it's instantly there. So that's otherwise you can run the engine at the moment you need it, but then you have loadings, of course.
Yeah, having spent quite a few hours doing the same thing, I'm very happy that you moved it into a package to make it easier. I think it's very impressive. Did you manage to get the meta channels automated now for React Native, or not yet?
The plugin itself, what you get is you have a method where you can just invoke something, and you can pass some data to it. At this moment it's like that, and you can return data. I wanted to make it very generic at this moment, and then decide on if it's going to be Pigeon or gRPC or maybe something else. But I think at least I wanted to give you the very generic way of communicating, and that should, and then add an extra layer on top of it if needed.
So you probably develop your Flutter module first, and then you hand it over to like the React development team. I'm not sure. I don't think I missed it, but if there's a lot of communication between the Flutter app and the native app, how do you test all these communications before you are developing, before it's integrated into the native app?
Yeah, that's the idea of the example app. And I'm generating an example app where you can say, oh, now the team has to be this, something like that. But at InvestSuite, that example app is doing much more. You can you can say like now log in with this user, or in you have to.
It's like your test suites before you can. Okay.
The example app is the starting point,
yeah.
And then the idea is that you can add all your custom handovers, just in a list or whatever you want, of course. And the idea is also, that's why I also wanted this as a Flutter example app generator, that you can add it there. You as a Flutter developer just have to do Flutter run, and
okay, I missed
everything.
that. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I maybe want to add something to the questions that were asked as well. So I worked on it as well for quite some days, months even. But the important thing that we do at InvestSuite is we have not only an SDK that we ship, but we also ship a Flutter app, which we actually built the entire app in. So next to the Flutter app that we built, we also have then the Flutter module. So it's easier for us to test everything in the Flutter app, have an abstraction layer around all the method channels that we do, and then have it implemented in React Native and in Android and in iOS correctly with Pigeon or anything else. But that makes it for us easier to debug, to test everything, and to do the handover as well. So I think that's also an important side note. We have a lot of abstractions between, for example, everything related to Firebase. A lot of dependencies can be conflicting, which makes it quite difficult. And I think even in the React Native and in the modules, we use not even Firebase or anything else. We try to use as much Dart and as less native parts as possible. So I think that's
mostly the super app.
We
call it mostly the super app. They are doing authentication, but also, for example, logging. We don't log. We just say to the super app, log this error or something like that. You can use Sentry, but also other analytics, Google Analytics. We don't connect ourselves to Firebase Analytics. We say like the super app, just use your analytics you want. Here is an event, and they can handle it.
And you want to make it as easy as possible. So that's also why, for example, we have a layer in Kotlin, a layer in Swift, a layer in JavaScript. So it's easier for developers to actually run everything. So Kris has done an amazing job, I think.
The thing is, we are already using it at InvestSuite, not this plugin, but a lot of other code generation stuff. And here I wanted to get the key out of it and make it available for other ones. Maybe try to get a better package that everybody can use, I guess.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Any other questions?
Maybe just a little add-on. It is actually possible to have mock responses on method channels in widget tests as well. So you could wrap your module within a widget test and then have mock responses that just run every time on your CI/CD solution, just to make sure that you're it's still gonna work when you hand it over.
Cool. All right, thanks.
Yeah.